a very I was very fearful, and I was very shameful of sin, of anything. I mean,
Recognize that was us. We still we don't feel the emotion of it 100%, but we sympathize with the emotion we had then.
I honestly thought was already dealt with, that is really in my energy. And it's it's not vivid flashbacks. They don't come with that same heart palpitation or that same, shakiness or sweatiness, because
Special guests, we share the flame. Through every word we claim our name.
Hey sparklers, how are we doing? So if you're new around here, I'm Empress Sparkle. I'm a witch, clairvoyant, Hellenic pagan. I'll get the right word in a minute. Pagan, and I see souls. Today I have a lovely guest with me, another healer. That's something I never add actually in my introduction, so I do apologise if you don't know that. I'm also a healer. Jackie, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
well, hi, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you for honoring me with this platform and your audience. My name is Jackie Suzanne Rubio, and I am a Reiki master teacher, also diving into the quantum healer aspect of life, I would say. And I'm here on my spiritual journey, unfortunately, out of some very hard circumstances. December 16th of 2022, I violently lost my son to murder, and it blew the doors open on my spirituality, on where we go after death, like if consciousness survives, and took me into a deep, deep dive, to look for my son, to wonder where he is. So that's what started my spiritual journey. And um, I want to just say, like, what led me to Reiki and to being a healer was about 8 months into my journey after losing Devin. I what had a Reiki session from another mom who'd lost a son, and it was the first time I felt reprieve. It was the first time that I felt any peace in that entire 8 month period. So sorry, I'm kind of emotional.
No, no.
I just said to myself, oh my gosh, I don't really know what this is, but I have to learn it. And I want to give this to other moms. And so that's really like what set me on the Reiki course. And I do love Reiki so much. And then, it seems like Reiki's sort of a doorway. Once you tap into the Reiki energy, into life force energy, oh my gosh, then you've got psychic intuition. I know I've got a lot of communication with my son on the other side, with higher beings on the other side, and it's just sort of continued to flow and escalate from just the Reiki to. I don't ever call myself a medium, because I believe mediumship work is so sacred, and it's a very spiritual development, that it takes. For me, that's my belief. And so I communicate with my son, and I hear messages from other people on the other side, especially during a Reiki session. But I have definitely tapped into higher consciousness. I do automatic writing with a collective, and now actually turned into verbally channeling a collective that my son is a part of. They just come in, they call themselves the we. So I just call them the we, and it's really a collective of like unity consciousness. That's what they say, that they really want to teach me and anyone who listens to my channels about oneness and about unity. Um, so I don't know if that's a good introductory or not. I'm sorry. I don't
No,
think I've ever introduced myself.
it's perfect, lovely. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's perfect. I'm literally right. I will explain first because I feel a bit bad for my face on mediumship. So I do feel a bit bad. So I explain. I am a face puller, but the reason why I feel bad is because I would class you as a medium. Um, I think the problem, I'm very against this love and light mediumship crew that go around. I'm very against them. So I'm going to call you a clairvoyant. You can have the posh old name, my lovely. Clairvoyant. We are the ones that use our intuition. We know what's going to happen and we can speak to the dead. So I'm going to call you a clairvoyant. I do apologise if that offends any of the love and light crew. I know a lot of you get angry at me. But I love what you've said as well. I literally love it, sweet. Because it is often a death that takes us on this path. And I will admit that to anyone. I was talking to someone today and it was a death for me. It was my baby cousin dying. I didn't understand why. I was like, she's 12 days old. Why she passed? And I'm guessing your journey was similar to me. So you're brought up with a Christian background and in the church, and they never can explain death the way you need it, if that makes sense. I don't know whether you felt that.
Interesting enough, I didn't grow up in my childhood as very Christian. I think that I was Christian because I'm American. You know, I don't know any other way to explain this very deep rooted Christianity beliefs. And then as an adult, I have a very colorful past. I was a drug addict and alcoholic for many, many years, a single mom. I mean, a teen pregnancy, you name it. I came from a really traumatic childhood. So I did as an adult get very involved in Christianity, and it saved my life. It got me off of methamphetamine. So I will always have a deep love for Christianity, but it left a huge hole in belief systems. It left also a very punishing God. It left a very I was very fearful and I was very shameful of sin, of anything. I mean, Christianity is in that aspect, in my beliefs. I'm not saying all Christianity teaches this. This could be my filter in the way I was absorbing,
I was to say
the pastors and the books of the Bibles that they were, expanding upon. So it left a huge hole in my belief system. And I have to say that ingrained belief, even though I was not raised as a Christian, we didn't go to church. I mean, I have no idea where this deep rooted belief in God and fear of God and judgment of myself came from. But I have to say that on my spiritual journey, it's been one of the biggest hurdles and has caused me the most fear. I think that of anything, of being able to hear from my son, of being able to get communication from him. I know that even the Reiki's beautiful. Reiki can cause no harm. Reiki is the most amazing opening life force energy that you can ever ask for. And I was scared. I was shameful of myself for having Reiki. I was scared to perform Reiki because it just seemed like it was against God. And it took a long time to overcome that. And I suffered so much more throughout my spiritual awakening and throughout my son's death because of that deep embedded fear. And it's not that I had like fear of the devil. I had fear of God. I mean, I literally feared God, not like the devil, as much as I realized I was like, oh my gosh, why do I fear God? And so that's a big part of my journey too.
I love what you've said there, because it's same here in the UK. We are basically forced to fear God. And it's in society more than anything. It is in society. And I love what you've said there, because it is perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself. So I'm a bit like, oh, that's took me off where I go next. I think though, one of the things, I don't know about yourself, one of the things I personally found when you come into the spiritual world, Jackie, is getting okay with the darkness within. So this is one thing I talk about with my guys, is getting okay with the doubts. Like, doubts are normal. Whereas obviously with the Christian beliefs, we're not meant to have doubts. That is the devil come to what is it they say? Temptation, lead us to temptation. That's a word I want to use, and stuff like that. So I think for me personally, getting okay with the darkness within and going, do you know what? I feel like that at this first minute. That's okay. Someone's annoyed the hell out of me. I'm okay to feel like that. I don't know whether for you that was one of the hardest journeys to get over, if that makes sense. And is part of healing. We need to remember that as well, is part of healing.
So I sort of have a couple of things about that. First of all, I'm still in a lot of doubt. I can't, I wish I wasn't, but absolutely, it's so odd that after all of this time, the minute I'm going to open up spiritually or, do a channel, I mean, I can't help it. I still am like, am I crazy? It's like, is this really like happening? Is reality really, subjective, type thing? And so, but then, my team, my son, my team, they always just come in and, they do their thing anyway. And so like, they will just carry me with them, whether I can just be so doubtful, it doesn't matter. They're like, yeah, you can doubt all you want, but we still got stuff to do and say, so come on, princess, let's go. And so I thank God for that, because if it were up to me on my own, in my personality and in my humanness, I wouldn't do any of this. I wouldn't have never done my first Reiki session, but they just come and they just take me with them, and then facing your darkness, I have to tell you that when my son was murdered, he was murdered by his ex-wife, and he was picking my grandson up. They were in a huge custody dispute, and she killed him, and she shot him 9 times in the house where my grandson was at. And I thought I thought my grandson would live with me. I mean, like, that only made sense. There was a trial, and my son was really scared of her. She'd been accusing him of things and making up crazy things that was, causing him to have to go to court and prove himself. And so he installed a dash cam on his car, and he would actually ask her to meet him at the police station, and she never would do that. So he would go to her home to pick up my grandson, and he would face the car where the camera would pick up everything. So that way he was completely protected. She couldn't make anything up about the exchanges. And this day he parked like that. So it was all caught on video, and there was not any confrontation. He didn't do anything to her. He knocked on the door. She opened the door and started firing. So I assumed that my 7-year-old grandson would live with me. And boy, did I assume wrong. I live in the state of Oregon, and they left her parenting rights. They would not take custody away from her. They said that, basically she's innocent until proven guilty. And so she had the right to give my grandson to her family. And I went to court. I went to war. I mean, I did, but like I mentioned, I have a colorful background. I have a colorful past. And at that time, going to court, everything I've ever done wrong in my life, as a drug addict, as an alcoholic, as a parent, was laid open. And some of it wasn't even true, but, some of it was. So every past mistake I had ever made in almost 50 years of living was laid open in a stack of paperwork from like private investigators and, her attorneys and things like that for a judge to look at. And I feel like that is a hell of a way to face your darkness and make peace with your mistakes. And I had no choice. And this was within a month of my son being murdered. So I didn't even have a chance to, to grieve for him. And then I started to have to grieve for my grandson. And then I started to have to grieve for myself with all this blackness, darkness laid out in front of me to have to take in. So I think I'm the queen of shadow work. And somehow I've had to incorporate those mistakes, that guilt, that shame. I stayed sober through the murder of my son, through all of this, and I've been able to take that and move with it. I've had to be able to sort through the guilt, the shame, the darkness, the finality of the kind of parent I was to my son, who is now not on this earth. And I feel like that's a difficult place to be, but also I think that has something to do with the spiritual awakening. When you can free yourself from all that guilt, from all that shame, from all that garbage that we carry, just because we're a soul who came into this earth to have these experiences, we're labeling them as terrible experience. I definitely label them as terrible experiences, as being a terrible mother, human, blah blah blah. But I think when you can carry those and get to a place in your soul enough to understand, like, that those are just experiences, that those are choices that we probably made before we even came into this lifetime, it frees you up again. It just takes another layer off so that you're more receptive to your guides. You're more receptive to spirit at that point. You're more receptive to God.
Do you know what? That is very, very true, because I finally healed, truly healed is the way I'm going to word it. I'm still not healed 100%, guys. Before anyone gets on to me, I'm still not healed. We heal every day because we have to, from the children annoying us, to the husband annoying us, to the neighbors annoying us, whoever it is annoying us. We have to still heal every day. We have to do shadow work every day. But I love what you've said there, because it is so true. We re-walk through all this pain, and 90% of the time, I don't mean this rudely for people, it's people throwing it in our face, and you have to re-walk through it. And then I remember once I healed, I went to a party and someone says, "Oh, I remember you being like this when you were younger." I went, "Yeah, I was. Maybe you were a twat and that's what caused it to be like that." And I just walked off, because I'm fine with the way I was. That was me when I was younger. That isn't me now. And I'm fine with that. And I have been by the way, I want to explain actually something here. And I hope you don't mind me, Jackie, explaining this. Yeah. This is not us, because I've been accused. I had someone else on the podcast, and after we'd done it, they accused me of disassociating from my past. We do not disassociate from our past. We're okay with it. We recognize that was us. We don't feel the emotion of it 100%, but we sympathize with the emotion we had then. It's not disassociation, as counselors say it is disassociation. We know we were that person. We ain't hiding from the fact we were an arsehole. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Jackie. It's just something that was brought up in another podcast, and someone was like, "Well, that's disassociation." I was like, "No, it's not." What? So I wanted to clear that up, because I think that's what you've said is an important part of healing. And I love the way you've said that Reiki helps. So I started in Reiki, and it's actually turned now to what I call energy cleansing, because I also cleanse the soul because I can see it. So I don't know what I want to ask about Reiki, because I'm like, we know your journey into it. So how... I sort of want to ask about how you sort of found that Reiki is still continuing to help you. I think that's the way I want to word it, is still continuing to help you now.
Well, Reiki is just a huge part of my existence. I don't do anything without Reiki. Before we got on this podcast, I opened up all my symbols and I called in all my Reiki guides, and I asked for the Reiki energy to flow. I don't know why. Maybe it's not like this for everybody, but it's just embedded in who I am now, like how I move through my day. And there's just something about it that just like brings me so much peace, brings me like clarity, and also helps me just not feel alone. The vibration of Reiki is like everything to me right now. And the healing has definitely escalated from just using Reiki and Reiki guides and the vibration of Reiki to opening like higher. availability, higher realms to use for healing, the quantum healing, light healing, instead of like I consider Reiki to be a vibrational healing, a sound almost. And the quantum, I consider it's light. And the speed of light is faster than the speed of sound. So it's more multi-dimensional. And I mean, we need that, but we also have a human vessel. So we need that beautiful covering of Reiki. We need that beautiful vibration that flows and ripples through our energetic bodies and our physical bodies. So it's part of my daily life. I can't think of one day that has ever gone by where I haven't just opened Reiki and used it for something. Even if it's for meditation, like, I just get up in the morning to do my meditation, and I, open my Reiki and I invite the energy to start flowing just while I'm meditating, because it amplifies it for me. It will amplify and take away some of the overthinking and the brain fog, especially when you're in deep grief. I mean, that is a huge side effect of grief, is you just can't freaking think straight. You can't, differentiate things in your mind. So I also don't believe that we're spiritually, what did you call it? Because I would call it spiritually bypassing in the
Uh,
conversation that you were just having.
about soul cleansing. Is it about soul
No,
cleansing?
but you were talking about how
Oh, about disassociating. So basically,
yes,
that yeah.
disassociation, yeah. So I guess my counselors might call it spiritually bypassing, and I am a huge advocate against that. A spiritual bypassing. We are human beings, and we came into this experience, this existence, in order to feel human emotions. And I don't think you can get to the other side of anything by skipping those emotions. I really feel like you have to go ahead and sit with it, feel it, let it become part of who you are, and and
Sorry,
then move.
lovely. My dog's just
And
got
then
come.
that's okay. And then allow it to move through you and with you. So yeah, it was interesting that you used that specific word.
I think it's because oh blimey. So I better explain a little bit. So 26 years ago, I started my journey on witchcraft. 22 years ago, I started my journey on tarot, and 15 years ago, I started my journey on healing. So I've been spiritually healed spiritually for the last, hold on, 2019 officially. So only the last 6 years, because it took me 4 years to get to the point where I'd walked through everything in my life. It took me 4 years, and I won't deny that to anyone. And I think the thing is, for me, is once you've walked through that emotion, you've felt that emotion, you've dealt with that emotion, I've just done a video, and I can literally still see the memories. I can still feel the emotion while I was there and stuff like that. I think the thing is with me is, that's the word I want. I don't let it overwhelm me with emotion anymore. So it's not the fact I can't feel the emotion. I don't let it overwhelm me with emotion anymore. And I think that is one of the weirdest things, because it does sound like disassociation. And that's what I said to women. It does sound like disassociation. But if every time I'm out and about and I see something and I don't know how to word it. I know it sounds weird. And I see something and it um brings up memories of stuff that's happened in the past. Whereas 6 years ago, I would have had a breakdown and had to run. I would have had a breakdown, I would have had to run. Whereas now I can go, right, that person's in a similar situation to what I was. How do I help them? So I don't have that trigger anymore, which I would have done, because back in the day, I would have been so overwhelmed with that emotion. I would have been triggered by the situation. Whereas now I go into, right, how can I help that person? How can I guide that person? How can I teach that person? So I've now not disassociated or bypassed it. I've walked through it, but it's now to the point where it's so far gone that I don't feel that overwhelmness, I think is the best way to explain it. I
Yeah,
think if that makes sense. I
I think I
think,
can definitely understand like how you're explaining it. I've been, I think, I've been experiencing some of the same. I I will definitely know I still have just tons of healing to do, and now now they're even bringing in past lives, and I, a lot of my work is around ancestral healing. That is something that my son has brought through. Like we have generations and generations of of ancestral wounds, and he's like he wants to help me get those cleared up. And I think from the other side, his motivation is for his son. He's like, Mom, like let's do this. Like let's get some of this cleaned up because he wants his son and to get a more cleaner version of what our family line. So I've had lessons. I've been trained by him, by the guides, by the channel, like to how to do specifically these past life healings and these ancestral healings. Like they're pretty intense, the work that I do as far as the ancestral line healings. So it's not now I like even if for some magical reason I was able to heal all my own crap that I've brought on myself or been through in this lifetime. Now they're like, oh, yeah, but wait, you got like,
you got
let's just
this.
like, you don't want to go, Jackie. Like, oh, just keep doing it. So I definitely, I can understand like what you're saying because recently I've noticed that there's some past stuff that I honestly thought was already dealt with that is really in my energy. And it's it's not vivid flashbacks. They don't come with that same heart palpitation or that same, shakiness or sweatingness because you're reliving them in your body. They come in kind of intense though, like a memory, like, okay, well, and I go, oh no, okay, but I'm not feeling it in my body. I'm not actually reliving, but it is in my awareness. And so I'm like, okay, like this came up. I'm like, well, exactly what do you guys want me to do with it? And sometimes it is literally just to acknowledge it. And I go, okay, how old was I there? Where at is my inner child in this? Like what can I do? And sometimes it literally is to just acknowledge it, you know.
Yeah.
And I heard you say you're not loving lighty, but sometimes for me it feels like it is because I'm just supposed to send love to the whole situation. Just send my Reiki, send my love, send down some angelic, I would say changing the energy pattern of the situation to kind of erase the mark on me.
Yes.
I don't have the ability to see deeply into the soul like what you're talking about, but maybe that's what it is, like erasing some of that wounding, that signature that's actually in my soul. So, and it doesn't feel as intense. And if I would have had these body memories or these flashbacks, a couple years ago, just like you, I would have closed my eyes so freaking tight. I would maybe, go have a drink or, I've been sober for 5 years. So maybe go eat a bag of potato chips or something in order to just get rid of that. Like, and
Horrible
now,
feeling.
yeah, but now when it comes, I just allow it and I just go, okay, guys, okay, team, like this memory is definitely in my energy now. What am I supposed to do with it? I don't just run away from it.
Now, that is what I'm talking about. That is actually what I'm talking about. So I think this is one of the things that people don't understand. So I can get flashbacks from, so I've got past the bit where got to acknowledge it, but I'll suddenly get a flashback and I'll be like, right, who's in my energy? And people go to me, what do you mean, who's in my energy? I'm like, you need help. They're telling me, they're giving me an example of my childhood to help you. Right,
Oh,
get my WhatsApp number. I need to talk to you. And they're like, oh, no, 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 I don't. And then I'll get them on WhatsApp and I'll say to them, look, this is what's going on in your life. You're questioning, is this happening to this person or it's actually happening to you? And they're like, how did you know? And I went, they gave me a flashback of my own childhood. they gave me a flashback of me in my 20s. So I knew exactly what you were having an issue with. I says, but because I haven't connected with your energy yet, I couldn't see into your soul to see where it was. But that is exactly so when you get past that bit, Jackie, the next bit that comes is they give them to you to actually help people. And I love it when
Right.
they do that. I love it because it's like, right, I know you know exactly where to go. And I think you'll understand this, Jackie. When you're healing people, it's so helpful to know exactly where to go. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, so actually in my healing sessions and my Reiki sessions, I physically feel like I physically feel not, and it's not just like a physical pain, it's if there's emotional pain. And at first I didn't understand like why I'm feeling, like I can feel rape, I can feel, heartache, I can feel grief, and I didn't really understand. And then now I get it, and they just like show that to me in my own body so I can recognize it and specifically
Yeah.
heal it in them. But now I can also ask, okay, guys, thanks for letting me know, but move this. Don't, I don't want to keep this. I don't need to feel this anymore. I just tell them thanks for showing me and move it right along. Like move it right along, and then I could go to work on them and understand like what's exactly needing to be done for them. So I can see that.
That is actually, so you're not far behind me, lovely. You've done bloody brilliant. It took me 4 years to get, oh, say no, it is nearly 4 years, isn't it, to get to where I would say I am now. Wow, that is absolutely brilliant, sweet. I'm sorry, I'm impressed. I hope you don't mind because, and the reason I am impressed is because even now, one of my biggest core memories is the miscarriage of my babies. And that is one of my biggest core memories. So I'm like really impressed because I'm like, wow, I remember that pain. Like now, this is what I'm talking about the pain doesn't overwhelm me, but I remember it. Like, and they were babies. They didn't have children. They were only 18 weeks old. So I'm like, well, not even 18 weeks as in proper babies, but pregnancy wise, I should clear that up. So for me, I'm amazed because you're also one of the first ones I've had on here where I've tried to explain that, but actually can understand it as well. So I'm like, wow. So, wow. Which I hold my hands up. One of the reasons, obviously, I can see your soul, so I know it's white. But one of the other reasons that I knew you are close to your healing, coming through your healing, and I hope you don't mind that, is the whites of your eyes. So if
Oh,
you
really?
yeah, it's the whites of our eyes. I look at past photos of me and they look so grey, so dull. There's nothing shining from them. And now it's so weird how our eyes change once we heal. I don't know whether you're the same. I've got to ask that. I don't know why I have to ask that. I don't know who's sending me that.
To look through that through I mean I of course my eyes are going to look pretty dull because they're always hungover. Take a good look at that. I know that I feel sometimes when I look in them at my eyes, like I feel now like I can see flickers of stuff in the pupil itself, like images. And I was like, that's different. But I love that. Yeah, that's a good way to know, how you're doing on your journey is to look past, look at your eyes. I think that's why you must have said that, because that is a great way, because we need confirmation on our journeys. I know even now, like it's so bizarre, but I mean, I woke up, yesterday and I was just thinking like, I'm so far, like I've it's coming on my son's 3-year mark of his death. And I actually wrote a book and it's launching on the same day. So I've been on this just journey because there's so much pain and sadness in my body that surrounds the circumstances. At the same time, this book is coming out, like, and people, complete strangers, you probably read it and you're gonna hear about my son and the quirkiness of his life and all the hard work he's done from the other side to make sure his mama knows that he's okay, and to like help me stay sober and help me. He comes in most of my Reiki sessions. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but he comes in at first. He, like, especially when it's for other moms whose children are on the other side too. He comes in, he's wearing a hard hat, and he's got his little safety vest on, and his work boots are tied up, and I can tell, like, okay, he's there to do work. And then I know also sometimes he'll come in and he'll just like be leaning on the shovel. And I know he's just like, he's just watching. So it's been a lot of emotion for me. And yesterday I just thought, you should be feeling like, you shouldn't be feeling like this. You're behind, like, and I need to then somehow be able to stop and start to see the mark of how much work I've done, of how much, healing that's been done, of where my mindset is now compared to where it was, even before he died, when I was really still struggling coming out of sobriety and, things like that. So, I love that we could take the pictures and look back and probably start to help document some of our progress that we've made healing and spiritual. So that's awesome.
If I could screen share, because I've literally just downloaded a couple of photos ready for my a podcast, a video I've got coming out. So if I could actually screen share, I might have to send you, Jackie, so you can see it. The whites of my eyes look grey, they don't look blue. They look grey at the minute, but that's because camera's crap. Um,
Okay.
they literally, the whites of my eyes are just dead. They're literally dead. And it's one of the things that actually a friend of mine who I haven't spoke to for 3.5 years, um, and she literally come through the other day. And even though I finished my healing journey, walked through everything, was fine 6 years ago, 3.5 years, well, it's longer than that actually, since I moved up here. 4.5 years ago, blimey, time flies. 4.5 years ago, I actually completed it's strange, I don't know how to word it, but I completed there was finally an end on a journey. Does that make sense? I'm trying to
Hmm.
word it without bringing people that are alive into the conversation. But there was an end to a journey. There was finally this end to it. And literally, she come onto one of my lives the other day and she went, "Your eyes." And I was like, "What are you talking about, your eyes?" And I think that's why the spirit guides are saying you need to hear that as well, because I think okay, Tommy. So I think for, like, Tommy's just said to me, he's just like, she doesn't recognize how far she's come, and it's okay to have the odd days where you are. Even I have odd days, I'll admit that. You never fully heal. That's why I use the term, you never fully heal. Um,
Yeah.
and this is one of the things where you have the odd days, but 90% of the time, you're ready to work through it, you're ready to go on. And he is like, she is working on it, Empress. Got to be careful of using my real name. She is working on it, Empress. She's not just sat there, she's not just it. And I love that. I hope you don't mind me bringing that up.
No, I don't mind at all. And like I said, it is good to have like a physical marker so that you can go back and you can, really, I guess, pat yourself on the back, or at least comfort yourself and go, you have made it so far. You have made it so far.
It is so important. I think that's one of the things that people don't realize. It's one of the things I've come to learn is, even though I don't actually see the soul through the eyes, and I will admit that, it's like our eyes are the window to our body's health. So if our soul's
Mm.
okay, they show it. And that is one of the things that I've sort of learned, if that makes sense. I don't know how else to word it other than learn. And for me personally, I feel sometimes when you're on the start of the journey, You know, I started, as I said, how long ago I started mine. When you like yourself and you feel new to the journey, that's the way I'm going to say it, actually. I'm going to correct that term, Jackie. When you feel new to the journey and you're not used to, and let's be honest, we don't know many at the time that actually have done this until we start the journey, it
Yeah.
can be quite difficult. And I'll be honest, there's not many weirdos like me that can say, I've been doing this since the 90s. Come on, let's go and have fun. There's not many weirdos on the internet like me that can do that. Because a lot of it comes from tragedy, is the way I'm going to word it. A lot of the start of it comes from tragedy or seeing influencers, and most of the influencers are a lot younger than I am, and I will admit that to everyone. So they've sort of started in, especially COVID, giving out this advice, and they've only been doing it since sort of COVID time and stuff like that. And I'm still, and like for me with you, what shocks me is for you, it weren't a spiritual awakening the same as COVID. So this is what's shocking me, because most of them are talk about COVID and they're like, oh, it's a spiritual awakening from COVID. Yours wasn't. So for me,
Yeah.
it's like, it shows actually, because I'm trying not to upset any of the last guests by sitting there going, oh, you've done so much better than them in 2.5 years and what they did.
No.
Right, I'm not trying to say that, but what I'm trying to say is when it affects from tragedy, because we need to heal quicker and we need to heal for other people, like you say, your grandson. So we do need to heal that bit quicker. Um, it is a strange, I don't want to say feeling, I don't think that's the right way. It's a strange path, lonely path. I don't know whether that's the right term either. Um, But it can be. Sorry, I'm just impressed at your journey. I'm sorry. I'm just literally sat here like really impressed, because I'm like, wow, well, I don't know whether she was a spirit guide or a real person. I will admit that I used to go and sit in a coffee with, and she was explaining me how to whiten my soul and stuff like that. And I'm sat here like, that took me 10 years to get to where you are. Wow. Oh, wow. So I hope you don't mind me saying that. I'm sort of like, um,
It, it's a tiny bit uncomfortable just because I don't um I get to lean on Reiki because we're taught that we don't actually do the healing, that Reiki does the healing. And so I could take like myself out of it. But I got like I was super intuitive, and like with the Reiki, I started getting confused because there was so much like psychic stuff involved in it. And I come from the very traditional Reiki lines, and you don't do that. Like that's egoic. And I was getting very conflicted and confused. And I found my teacher, who's Lisa Campion. She wrote The Art of Psychic Reiki.
yeah.
And when I read that book, and I was like, oh, thank fucking God. Like this starts to make like and so she's been my teacher for a while now, and like the psychic development and stuff. I mean, and I feel like I hear that a lot, like, like you're really good, like like nobody picks it up this quick, like it's really natural to you. And I have to admit, like it makes me like squeeze inward
I'm
because
sorry.
no, no, no. It's just because the Reiki, I can like lean on the fact that I don't do the healing, and that's just someone, our higher guides and our higher selves doing it. But the psychic intuitive stuff, like I have to start to own that. And so, sorry, I'm gonna get a little bit emotional. I think I'm still in the process of owning that gift, of owning that ability, and I don't get to lean on it as like a Reiki, like where, oh, I'm just a channel and Reiki just does all the work. In the intuitiveness, like I'm just starting to kind of embody that. And it's still, I was like, I could feel my body still kind of like tighten up. I'm like, oh, I don't want people to hear that. Like you think that I'm I'm spiritually coming along, or I don't know. It's interesting. So, and just to be honest with everyone, because this is what we go through. This is like some of the thoughts and the thinking and the processes of what we go through during spiritual awakenings and on our spiritual journey. And I want to say that there's one thing about me is I don't buy into um some of that, and I don't think I'll go as far as you to say love and light, because that's just, for me, that's not my experience. But um I do call it toxic positivity, and I do call it a lot of spiritual bypassing. And I just, my son from the other side, like this entire time, his advice to me on almost everything you can imagine is, Ma, you just be you, you just be you, you just be you. And so I don't try to pretend things that aren't true for me, and I don't try or want to represent myself in a place that I'm not, or anything. So I feel like honesty and being like truthful in a spiritual setting is the most important thing for me. I mean, for me, I just have to like be honest about where I'm at in my healing, in my abilities, in my emotional life, in my grief, all of it.
So I think that's where, when I say the love and light crew, so I put them in a bubble. I hold my hands up, the toxic crew, I put them in a bubble. I actually like the term you've used, is toxic positivity instead. I actually really love that, because I often have to deal with attachments that they cause. So they do cause a lot of people to get attachments. And I'm often the one having to go, right, here we go again. Right, which medium did you go see this time on TikTok? And I'm often having to deal with it. I think the trouble is because I deal with a lot of darkness as well. I'm like, the love and light, it's not all love and light. It's not. And don't get me wrong, I love the way you said everything we deal with is love and light. So the way I get rid of the darkness, the way I deal with an attachment is love and light. But I think because that statement's been twisted, is that the right term that I want to use? I think it is, into this everything's love and light. I've had people come to me and they've been trained by one of these, what I call love and light mediums, and they've gone, I don't know what's going on with me. I feel like I'm going crazy. So I've had to sit them down and I've gone, look, you've got a shadow man stood right next to you. And they're like, oh, no, they're not. That's so and so's granddad. And I'm like, hold on, have you been trained to see the darkness? And they'll be like, oh no, because there's no darkness. And I'm like, what do I do here? And because when I first started my journey and I was doing this for people, it was a scary place to be, because you had all these love and light mediums coming out of the closet, teaching them that it's all love and light. And I'm like, no, you've got a mimic. You've got a shadow man pretending to be that person, but you've not been trained to feel, like with us, we can feel the energies. You've not been trained to feel the energy. So if you're not feeling that energy and you can't feel that heavy and repressant feeling that it's given, it's changed its energy to mimic something else so it can get into your energy field. And they were like, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm like, quantum physics, it's normal stuff. And they look at me like, no, that's not. So I think when I call them love and light crew, they're the people I'm talking about, the people which teach everyone that it's all gonna be gravy, baby. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. So I have to tell you that I'm right in the middle of exactly what you're explaining. I I have I have a teacher that where, like, there's entities, there's people, there's spirits attaching to you, there's all this darkness that can happen. And then I have people in my life that I love, and that they're like, no, 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 it is love and light. Like, what you're seeing is psychology. It's the psychology of your own own inner emotions. Like, it's not entities. And lots of people, it's just like, it's almost like on one side or the other, though. And I am sitting here like, feel like I'm right down the middle. because I definitely see, feel that there could be shadows, attachments, things like that. I also like, what if that really is that person's negative thinking? What if it's that really is another person in their energy field who's projecting all of this shadow, who's projecting all of this thing? And then, even for myself, when I'm doing my own healing and I see a shadow, or I see what could be considered, I don't know what the right word, a dark entity that is trying to attach to me. What if that is because it is my own negative thinking? It is all that old emotional baggage coming up in my energy field to heal. So um, I'm literally right in the middle of this.
Stay in the middle, because do you want
Yeah,
to know the truth? All of what you've just said is correct.
right.
All of it. So this is
Well,
where me, people like me and you, where we can feel the energy. So we go to that person, we go, oh, that's your own energy. You've caused your own shadow man. And people look at me
mm-hmm.
like I'm insane. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, you've caused your own shadow man. You have a choice. I can't deal with that. The only way you can
Yeah.
deal with that is lots of Reiki, lots of energy cleansing. That's how you're going to deal with that.
And
And
rewiring your thought process, like rewire you. So here's so I actually do a lot of my healing work. I have a spiritual coach who's an NLP coach. And that's how the channel came through for me. Like, he was doing a timeline therapy where you drop out the emotions. And it took me kind of so far down that the channel just started. My son came and started telling him, my mom needs this, 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 and this. Like, this is the way you need to heal my mom. And then the channel started like telling us, and that's like started putting together these big lineage healings. And they're like, that's exactly what they're saying. So they need the energy work, they need the ancestral healing, and then they need the brain rewiring. Then they need, where he comes in and he does the NLP work and he helps do the changing of that. So it's end up being like this total package. And I think I'm really just grateful because I I got these, I've got these higher, beings that can come through, and they can, and that's what they told me. For me, when it comes to this entity attachment, or all love and light, or all the psychology, and they're saying, like, what's happening is that these thoughts and these things and these other people's voices, that are speaking out loud, thinking out loud, are coming, and they're clouding, they're turning into a cloud above you, and basically they do become their own being at some point. And once you cluster all of these thoughts and all of these, negative thinking, other negative thoughts that are similar, the vibration of them are similar, and they start to come and they start to like join your own, until you've got this great big, what you could consider a negative attachment. And I've never said that to anybody out loud before, because it is such a contradiction, and I'm such a wussy about, like, who am I to tell anybody? Like you said, both things are true. So I'm like, who am I to tell anybody that there isn't a negative attachment, or that there is only psychology? So I'm just sitting here, like, when I do my healing and I do healing on others, I handle it how my people are showing me what it is. And if it's clearing their negative thoughts, instead of, peeling back an entity or a dark demon or any of that, then I go right into their brain and I start to work on pulling these thoughts out and pulling this tape out that plays over and over in their subconscious. And I think most of the time that does clear what you would consider an entity.
it does. Most of the time. There is very, very, very few times I've had possessions, what people call possessions. I'm going to use that. That's why I use the term attachments. Attachments are rare, and they're more to do with the house. So even though they can get into your soul, they're more to do with the house or the land. And for me personally, it's one thing I actually struggle with. I'm okay now. I will go into there and I'll speak to someone and I'll be like, oh, okay, there's a dark figure in the corner. Now I need to find out if it's an entity, as in a spirit, that's haunting this home. I need to figure out if it's that, or whether it's their own projection. And then I have to sit there and figure out that. And this is one of the things that for me personally, when I sit and speak to people, and I speak to people who believe in every entity's real, etc., and I'm like, it's not. And this is why when I said to you at the start, I don't believe in demons. This is why I said it. I don't believe in demons. I believe in daemon, and I believe that the daemon, because of what, when we look at what daemon actually examples, like the caress, is violence, etc., and stuff like that, it is built up energy. I do believe that some souls are stuck here just purely because of my paranormal research that I've done and the years that I've been able to see them. Some souls are stuck here either by choice, or your black figures, your black entities that do want to control you. But 90% of the time, they are stuck to a house rather than actually being able to attach to a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense because we all have free will, and the house doesn't have free will. So if there was going to be any like stuck energy, I could see it like being more apt to go to like a material place, not into a human, because like I said, we have free will. Even if we don't understand our own spirituality, if we wake up one morning and we go, I am so tired of feeling like shit, I'm not going to feel like shit today, bam, if there is something like that's kind of over clouding us and it is, a spiritual, that's our free will. It really has to, we get to decide like that day. Are we going to feel like crap all day? Oh no, we're not. So if there is an entity, then that would, I think, that would make our free will would decide, and it can't, it's got to go, type thing.
No, I completely and absolutely agree. And I completely agree. There's some days where some people need guidance to get through it, to get past it. There's some days where um people, just need a big cleanse and stuff like that. People will call it the placebo effect, if I'm honest. Some people would. Whereas there's some people who are, I feel really awful for saying this to him, stuck in their darkness.
Yeah,
They're just
yeah.
stuck in their darkness. And because of that, and this is actually, this will explain souls to you the way I see souls, Jackie. So I see them as white, grey, and black. So white souls are sort of like people who are spiritually aware, that are fine with the way their life is, they're doing the purpose of what their soul's meant to do, that sort of thing. Grey comes in about 30 different shades. So it does come in different shades, and it depends on the Richter scale of them things that I said, and they're full of regret, they're full of guilt, they're full of all that sort of thing. Black, they are your worst of your worst. They are your narcissists. They are your people that you were talking about that get in people's ear. So what I've met before is I've had a white souled person. They've then started dating a narcissist and they've soon gone down to a murky soul. And I've gone,
Hmm.
what the heck happened? What the heck happened? And they've gone, oh, look at my new partner. That's the only thing they raved about. And I've gone, yeah, can I have a look at your new partner, please? Give me the photo, give me the photo. And they show me him, and I'm like, you need to split out with them. They are darkening your soul. You need to split out with them. And they look at me and they're like, what the heck are you talking about? And I'm like, I take it the reason why you're no longer wearing skirts is thanks to them. And they look at me really shocked. Obviously, it's intuition. We know, me and you know that it's intuition.
Right.
And, but at the same time, part of it's knowing what sort of changes when you look at someone, how they're no longer happy in themselves and stuff like that. It's, oh, I don't know how to explain it. It's a very, very strange gift. And I do know it's one in a million because I've met two other people that can see souls since doing this out of all the
Mm.
people I've done. So it is a very, very strange gift. It's a very unusual, unique gift, which we do have from children without recognizing. But it's at the same time, it's a nice gift, because for us, it's nice because we know in a sense where that person needs the help and guidance. I'm hoping I'm making sense there. It's I'm a bit like you. I don't do well talking about my gift. It's like I like want to hide in a corner. I'm like, let me hide in a corner. I'm exactly the same, because I think, and it's not before you guys think it's embarrassment and stuff like that. It's because we understand the soul connection. So we don't want you guys thinking we're bigger and better than you. We understand the soul connection. We understand that every soul's connected, like it shows in Avatar. Avatar is a great example of that. I don't know whether you've seen the tree bit.
It's so funny. I actually just watched the two Avatar movies for the first time in my 50 years, just like 2 days ago. So that's really interesting that you would bring that up.
That is a bit strange, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
we definitely it's so fun. Thank you for this interview, because I mean I feel like I'm getting like uplifted and like a little bit of like I don't know, love and, being kind of ministered to today, because it is kind of a rough time period for me. So how fun to have this interview. I don't know that I've ever felt like this on an interview. So thank you so much
You're
like for
more than
that. And
welcome, lovely.
I could definitely see like this conversations could last for a really long time with you. Because normally I'm like I'm I'm nervous and I like, oh, how am I gonna feel like, and also because I do cry sometimes about my son, and I don't say everything perfectly, and so I kind of can get nervous. So this has been such a treat for me. Thank you very much for that. I have to
You're more than
say.
welcome, my lovely. Yes, I didn't even realize the time myself, my sweet. Usually one of my tribes come down by now. Would you mind doing your statement out? And you're more than welcome. I'm going to go and hide because you complimented me, so I'm going to go run and hide.
Yeah, yeah, we'll both be hiding in separate corners here for sure. Um, I okay, so the statement out. Well, first, I just wanted to say like my the book is called From Murder to Messages, and that's literally what it is. It's from his murder to the messages that he gave me, which has catapulted all of this, spiritual awakening for me, and all of these gifts and all of this like intuition. Um, and one thing I like to say about the book is it's short, which is I, when I was grieving so heavily, I couldn't have read a book to save my life. So I thought about like who would read the book and like how it would be, needed the most. So I kept it pretty short, and I put a ton of resources in there, like what worked for me, like what YouTube videos that or people, just because once you take that dive down the rabbit hole, I call it the YouTube rabbit hole, you are screwed. You are flooded with it's so hard to keep it straight. There's so many opinions and so many different teachings. And it's basically exactly what your podcast is about, because spirituality isn't a one-way lane. What one little suit works for somebody is you're not going to be able to fit in that suit. The next person's not going to be able to use that suit it's just not the way it works spiritually. It's really about getting to know yourself. It's really about getting to feel your own energy and learn what fits with you and what doesn't. And that's a very lonely journey at times. It's a very confusing journey at times. And it's a very it we want to we want to be like our Christians. We were put the Bible. God fits in that box. Jesus fits in that box. Demons, angels, sin, all of it fits in this neat little box. And when you start to take a dive into spirituality, there is no such thing as a box. Like that box can't even contain like not even a thread of what really goes on after this, and how many dimensions there are and things like that. So that's kind of like mind blowing. But what I focused on was my life, my past, and because when you have a child die, you start to hear from spiritual people that if your vibration isn't high enough, you're not going to get your signs. If you're not spiritual enough, if you're not a freaking vegan, if you're not this, if you're not that, then you're not going to get that connection with your guides, with God, with your children who have passed. And I really wanted to lay out who I really was, what my past was like, what my thought process is like, how jacked up I sometimes still am. And guess what? My son never stopped coming for me. He never stopped giving me signs. He never stopped teaching me. He never stopped loving me. My guides never stopped loving me. And so that's, I guess, my important takeaway is, do not buy into that you have to be a certain way, or you have to have a certain vibration or any of that in order to be loved from the other side, or connected to the other side, or hear from the other side, because my experience is that's just not true.
I love what you've just said there. Absolutely perfect. And it is perfect. I just want to say that, lovely. I'm a bit flabbergasted because I'm a bit like I couldn't have said it better myself. And it is true. We don't fit in a box. There is many ways. And as you said, I literally say to people, as long as you recognize the darkness within and you're okay with yourself, no bloody one else matters. Don't, just live for who you are. So I literally, oh, I'm sorry, you've gave me chills. I hold my hands up. I literally at the end I felt, oh, felt a lot of chills. So thank you, Jackie, so much. Jackie's details will be linked down below, guys, for you to be able to follow her and be able to get her book and stuff. I will make sure it's all linked down below. Do check her out because this lady's on a very similar. And with this lady, if you do follow her, make sure you do because she is on the journey that I now struggle to express because now I speak in riddles about it, as you guys say. So thank you, Jackie, so much for joining me. And thank you, sparklers, for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll speak to you soon. Keep sparkling.